Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Issei never killed by Raynare and got power early part 2. Before I start, please do support for more awesome content and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support and follow the JCT1345 for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. Let's start this video. Issei began to stir from his sleep, his eyes slowly opening. Issei began to stretch his arm forward before his hand was met with something unusually soft. This isn't a pillow. Well crap. The groggy groan came from a mass hidden in the sheets before sitting up to reveal Raynare. So that's how you say good morning. Jeez Issei, I expected more from you, perv. I still don't understand why you insist on sleeping in my bed. Issei sat up himself as to meet Raynare's eyes. I already told you. The dark-haired girl rubbed her eyes. I love you. You stupid idiot. Raynare said very monotone as she was still recovering from a long slumber. Issei rolled his eyes. Yeah. That's what you keep telling me, but I still don't believe you. That's super rude, you know. Raynare said, causing Issei to roll his eyes again. But I don't blame you. I know it sounds crazy, but I really do have feelings for you. Maybe it's not love, but I do like you a lot. So you're just gonna have to accept that. Raynare shot Issei a huge bright smile before she made her way to the edge of the bed. As she stood up, all the bed sheets fell off of the girl, totally exposing her near-flawless body. Really Issei picked up a blanket from off of his bed. Cover yourself. Issei lobbed the blanket towards the girl, hoping to cover her. Raynare skillfully dodged the incoming projectile, leaving her still completely dead. Oh, Issei. I think you dropped this. Raynare bent down to pick up the blanket, lifting her rear end upright in front of Issei's eyes. Needless to say, he saw everything. A small amount of blood began to flow from Issei's nose. Oh, grow up. You better hurry, we have school today. Issei quickly wipes his nose as he awkwardly rushes to get out of his bed. What do you mean, I'm just gonna have to accept it? Because idiot. You're the first guy I've ever met who knows I'm a fallen angel and is still nice to me. You're still here. You may not realize it, but that really means a lot to me. Raynare says with her back turned to Issei so that he couldn't see her face. You just have to accept my feelings because I'm never gonna let you get away. Raynare twirled around, chest bouncing as she moved. The fallen angel shot an enormous smile at the brown-haired boy, causing Issei to blush profusely. I'm gonna take a shower, you coming? At Kuoh Academy. As Issei entered the front entrance to the academy, immediately all eyes were on him. Faces of intrigue, confusion, and jealousy filled the crowds. It was typical for the new kid to receive this sort of attention from his classmates, but Issei had been going to Kuoh for well over a month now, so the new kid cliché had pretty much worn off at this point. Now Issei's classmates were staring for an entirely different reason. Murmuring could be heard amongst the crowd. Issei couldn't make out what exactly they were saying, but he knew it wasn't good. Issei rolls his eyes as he evaluates his current situation. I knew this was a bad idea, but she isn't helping. Issei looks over his shoulder to find Raynare gleefully clinging to his arm. Raynare was dressed in the standard Kuoh girl's uniform. A white button-down shirt, black ribbon bow tie, black button-down corset, and an extremely short magenta skirt. She made a completely blissful face as she tightly hugged Issei's arm, burying it in her large chest. I guess this isn't that bad. Issei tried to tell himself. As long as no more attention is drawn to us. Issei Haidu. Issei's eyes exploded open in shock as he looked down to find a short pink-haired girl. Oh, Caddis. Is something the matter? Issei tried to feign ignorance. Is something the matter? Raynare's face tightened up as a vein on her forehead began to throb. Oh, nothing. I just want to know. Who exactly is this girl? An angry smile plastered on her face. Oh, this is Yuma. Issei said after hesitating slightly. Yuma, huh. That's a very pretty name. Caddis's fake smile remained as she began to shake. 2 questions. 1. Just how do you know this girl? 2. Why is your arm buried in her tits? Raynare stepped forward, freeing Issei's arm but still holding a tight grasp on the boy's hand. It's simple, I can answer both your questions at once. Raynare stepped forward, sounding confident but dropping her usual sarcastic tone. Issei is my boyfriend. Boyfriend? The entire crowd exclaimed at the same time. Ring. 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 Oh, Issei, that's the bell. I don't want to be late on my first day. Raynare resumed her former position, clinging to Issei's arm. But the area in front of the school was cleared out, leaving poor Caddis all by herself. Boyfriend. Later. Issei took a seat at his homeroom desk. Glares of jealousy emanating from Issei's male classmates seemed to burn their way to Issei's very core. Nevertheless, the brown-haired boy kept his composure and simply turned to look out the window. Issei. Two boys rushed over to Issei's desk. One who had a shaved head with rather large ears. The other with glasses and uncombed hair. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" "Morning Mitsuda, Motohama," Issei said very monotone, as if he was deep in thought. "Oh yeah, morning." "Good morning Issei." The two boys get so caught up in politely greeting their friend that they almost forget their anger. Unfortunately for Issei, this temporary peace wouldn't last long. "Issei." The two screamed directly in Issei's face, causing the boy to flinch slightly. "Ugh, what's the problem with you two? Not that I don't already know." Issei mentally prepares for the response of his friends. "How could you?" Motohama began wiping his glasses as tears began to flow from below the lenses. "You broke the bro code, man." Mitsuda nodded in twine. Issei simply rolled his eyes at the two. "We all agreed we'd get bagging girlfriends together, but you went and showed us up," Motohama said between his pitiful sobs. "What? You mean you two haven't gotten yours yet? Come on guys, it's been a whole month, you guys need to up your game I guess." Issei mocked as he turned his head back to the outside world. "Well, excuse us for not being perfectly sculpted like a Greek god. Issei, your abs have abs. You walk outside and panties drop to the ground. Your only redeeming quality is that until now, you never really showed interest in women. Now you walk into school with one of the hottest girls I've ever seen. We don't have perfect eyes or hair that majestically dances in the wind." Mitsuda took over for the crying Motohama. "I don't know. Maybe you could try being charming to make up for the lack of looks." Issei calmly fires back, causing the two to back away. They had obviously been hurt by Issei's comment. "Alright everybody." Issei's homeroom teacher shouted, quieting everyone down and getting the attention of the class. "We have a new student today, so please welcome her." Raynare strolled in through the front door and made her way to the chalkboard at the front of the class. The dark-haired girl elegantly wrote Yuma Amano on the board in kanji. "Hello, everyone." Raynare bowed to the class. "My name is Yuma Amano, but please call me Yuma. I am extremely happy to be joining the same class as my loving boyfriend, Issei." She lightly waved her fingers at Issei, and the angry glaring resumed. "I hope we can all get along." Raynare left the front of the class and confidently walked to Issei's desk before taking a look around. "Ice, there are no empty seats around. Could you please move so we can sit together?" Raynare said softly, trying to act shy. "Ha." Issei sighed, taking a quick look at his beloved view before turning back to Raynare. "Su. No." Cadis stood up from the desk in front of Issei. "Don't worry, I'll move." Her voice was filled with anger. "I'm sure you want to sit with your girlfriend." "Oh, thanks Cadis." Issei smiled brightly, not picking up on the girl's anger. "Jerk." The pink-haired girl mumbled as she stormed off towards her new seat. Raynare takes the seat in front of Issei and shoots her boyfriend a delightful grin before turning back to the lesson. This is gonna be a long school year. Issei thought as he refocused himself on the green grass outside his window. Lunch. Ring. 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 As the bell for lunch sounded throughout Kuoh, all the students began to stir from their seats. I don't see Cadis. I guess she went to eat with the kendo club today." Issei thought as he dug through his bag for his lunch box. "Ice." Raynare swings her chair around, her face lit in a bright smile. "Let's eat together." "Of course. It's pretty obvious we'd eat together." Issei scooted over, giving the girl a place to sit. She immediately took advantage of the opportunity. She pulls her chair up directly next to Issei and takes a seat, making sure their bodies are touching as much as possible. "I know it's obvious, cause I'm your girlfriend." Raynare sounded absolutely giddy as she hugged the boy next to her. "I just love saying that." "Yeah, I know. You've said it every chance you get, and now the whole school knows." Issei sounded rather annoyed as he took a sip from a bottle of green tea. "Ice." Raynare whimpered as tears began to bubble in her eyes. "Are you mad that people know we're dating? Does it embarrass you that I'm your girlfriend?" "Quit the tears." Issei says as he pulls the girl's head towards his own. "You don't embarrass me, now let's eat." With that Raynare brightened back up. Issei and Raynare both pulled out similar lunch boxes and opened them to reveal near identical food items. Raynare drops a crispy brown ball from her chopsticks into her mouth. Her face is overtaken by joy as she bites down on the morsel. "Issei, your cooking is phenomenal." "Of course it is, it has to satisfy my appetite." Issei sits back as Raynare feeds his ego. "Satisfy, huh? Great word choice, Haidu-kun." An unknown voice coming from behind Issei causes him to jump in his seat. "Really Kiryu-san? Is your mind ever anywhere except the gutter?" "Hey Yuma-chan." Kiryu totally ignored Issei. "Why are you dating Haidu-kun anyway? I know he's super hot, but he also has the personality of a log. So why is a knockout like you with such a boring dude?" Raynare grabs the bottom of Issei's shirt and lifts it up, revealing his incredibly sculpted six-pack. "Oh, yeah. I guess that makes sense. Kiryu nodded. I'm just kidding. It's not his abs that I love, though they do help. I love him because of how kind and understanding he is. He accepts me for who I truly am, no matter what anyone else would think. Raynare shoots the boy a bright smile, causing him to look away with a blush. Also, I don't know what he's like here at school, but at home he's anything but boring. Raynare says with a sultry grin. Oh really? How so? Kiryu asks, also making a perverted face. Raynare doesn't respond with words. Rather she holds her hands out parallel, 8 or 9 inches away from each other. Kiryu's glasses began to gleam and conceal her eyes as she looked downward at Issei's crotch. Oh wow. Knock it off. Issei shouts as he covers up his area. Later Raynare's pav. This school thing isn't so bad. It's so cute when Issei gets flustered. He thinks he's cool, but he gets so easily embarrassed, it's almost adorable. Raynare giggled to herself as she thought of the boy's reactions. Okay, maths class. Not that I have to, but I'm going to use this opportunity to show Issei just how much better I am than everyone else. Brains are a total turn on, and I'm a genius. Alright class, please solve the problem on the board. The teacher scribbled down a seemingly random assortment of numbers and letters. Except you, Issei. Give the rest of the class a 50-second head start. Wait, calculus crap. A bead of sweat began to dribble down Raynare's face. It's not that I don't know calculus, but it has been a while. Well, let's see. I have to compare these two equations in order to find x. And of course they didn't provide us with a graph. Time passed as Raynare scribbled down some numbers before quickly erasing her progress. Come on Raynare, you know this. Just think I got it. It's 4. Alright, Issei. Go. The teacher waved, sounding rather disappointed. X equals 3.684. Issei said as he tapped away on his smartphone. Looking rather bored. The teacher took a quick look around the room, getting more and more frustrated as he saw the answers, until he looked upon Raynare's work. Close Amano-san. Issei, please help explain to her where she went wrong. Ugh, this is not impressive. Raynare buried her face in her books. After school, Issei's pav. Why do you get to be on your phone in class? Raynare asked, stopping along next to Issei, obviously still upset by how the afternoon's events played out. I'm probably the second smartest person here, if not the first. Of course, get special treatment. What are they gonna say? Issei, you need to study. Issei said mockingly as the two of them continued their walk. Issei and Raynare simply strolled past the old school building without a second thought as they continued to head for the main gates. Hey wait. A voice called out, causing Issei to stop. He turned around to find Ria's running after him. Ha ha ha. Where do you think you're going? Ooh. Home? Issei raised an eyebrow, not fully understanding her question. Really? After I pulled so many strings to get your fallen angel friend into my school. You think you can just skip on club activities? Ria's placed her hands on her as she glared at the boy. Well, if I'm not mistaken. I was kicked out of your club last week. Issei said with a grin. Which means I'm not skipping anything. I don't have any club activities. Ria's commanding pose withered away and she lowered her head, looking slightly depressed. That's not. I don't want you in my peerage and I don't want you in my club. Issei quoted Ria's, silencing the girl. I'm sorry I couldn't go die, but I have some plans left for my life. I was mistaken and angry. I lost control. I'm sorry. Ria's attempted to defend herself. I understand, but do you know what a friend does in that situation? Regardless of their feelings, a friend would have given their friend the benefit of the doubt as they calmly asked them if said allegations were true. Instead of blowing up on them and saying they don't deserve to live. Issei remained firm in his stance. You did let my friend into this school and you did heal my injuries, but your behavior is too inconsistent. I don't know if I should give you another chance. I said I was sorry. Ria's voice began to waver and the strength and confidence, which had previously been on full display, was completely gone. I don't know what else to do. Drops began to fall off the redhead's face. Oh crap. Raynare spoke up. Issei, I don't think those are fake. Ria's stop. Issei tried to calm the girl down, but the frequency of tears increased and sobs could be heard from the girl. I need you. Ria's quickly inhaled through her nose as she continued to cry. I can't, we aren't strong enough, you'll win, I'm sorry. Issei grabbed the girl's hand and began leading her away. What are you doing? Ria's asked as she began to wipe her eyes. Yeah, Issei. Just what are you doing? Raynare glared at how Ria's dainty hand fit perfectly into Issei's. Issei turned to the red-haired girl. You said it yourself. There's a club meeting today. Prez. But that Ria's blue eyes lit up and she just looked in awe at the boy. Yeah. 2 hours later. Issei, who was now cloaked in the crimson armor of his balance breaker, pushed open the old wooden door of the occult research club room. The training facility here is incredible. Issei said as his armor dissipated in a brilliant red glow. I don't think I've ever had a workout that good. The sweat that drenched Issei's body proved that his time was not wasted. It's new. The white-haired Kaneko stated. There's a spell on it where the stronger the person who's training on it is, the more resistance placed on their body. I like it too. Yeah, that is helpful. Issei nodded, flinging sweat from his hair. Gross. Kaneko added. Akeno, please show Issei to the shower and get him an extra pair of clothes. Riaz spoke up, her face no longer flushed from the tears. Uo. I'll go with you. Raynare followed as her eyes filled with hunger. No, you don't. Riaz blocked the angel's way with a magic circle. We won't have those kinds of relations in my clubroom. Perv. Kaneko spoke as she lifted a teacup to her mouth. It still surprises me how a gentleman, like Issei-kun, could fall for such a dirty creature as yourself. Akeno added, sounding less passive and more aggressive. Jealous. Raynare smirked. Oh, you don't even know. Akeno said, firing a deadly glare at the fallen angel. Akeno, that's quite enough. Raynare is a guest of Issei's, which means she is a guest of mine. Please show her some respect. Riaz glared back. The room was full of so much tension that the air could suffocate a person. Tiba looked back and forth across the room, he hadn't been part of the conversation, so he felt like it was up to him to break the tension. Well, as far as I've heard, Raynare-san and Issei-kun are dating. Congratulations to the both of you, Ak. With that, the tension in the air could now choke a devil. Later at the convenience store. I can't believe Raynare demanded I come all the way out here to get her some ice cream. Issei complained as he exited through the sliding doors of the store, carrying 2 plastic bags. One of these days I'm finally gonna give her a piece of my M. Issei stopped mid-sentence. His eyes widened and the bags dropped to the floor. Is that? I can't believe Raynare demanded I come all the way out here to get her some ice cream. Issei complained as he exited through the sliding doors of the store, carrying 2 plastic bags. One of these days I'm finally gonna give her a piece of my M. Issei stopped mid-sentence. His eyes widened and the bags dropped to the floor. Is that? Issei's muscles began to tense as he started to tremble. His mouth slowly opened in shock. A school. Issei releases a sneeze so intense that it knocks him to the ground, revealing a black cat directly in front of his feet. Ugh. My allergies. Issei scrambled back to his feet, grabbing the bags on the way back up. Alright, shoo. Issei waved his hand at the cat, which didn't obey. Rather than leaving, the black cat simply tilted its head, golden eyes shining in the moonlight. Wait a second. Something the matter, partner? Drake sounded off, causing Issei's left hand to light up green. Issei bent down in front of the feline. He carefully studied the cat, placing his hand on his chin. Yeah, Issei carefully pets the cat, causing it to be pure in delight. You see its fur. It's much too clean and well groomed for this cat to be a stray. So, what do you plan to do about this, partner? Issei the cat tightly in his arms as he stands back up. Well, I can't just leave her here. I'll take her home. That way when her owners start looking for her she'll be alive and well. Achoo. Issei's house. I'm back. Issei announces as he quietly shuts his front door. Issei walks into his dark, seemingly empty kitchen. Raynare. Are you here? Issei sets the frozen treats down on the table. The kitchen lights immediately flicker on, illuminating the room. Ahem. Raynare's voice echoed from behind Issei, causing the boy to freeze in place. You're late. I was at the pharmacy. Picking up allergy pills. Issei said as a bead of sweat rolled down his forehead. Pharmacy, huh? You know, Issei, I've played before, but that excuse is just. Issei turned his body around, revealing the small black cat to the fallen angel. Issei, what is that? Well. Issei looked down at the cat, then back up at his girlfriend. A confused look painted across his face. It's a cat. Yeah, I can see that. My question is, why is she here? Raynare crossed her arms as she glared at Issei. Issei began to scratch his chin as he tried to come up with an answer. Well, you see. One explanation later. You just saw some random stray outside of a convenience store and decided to bring her home. Raynare deadpanned, looking rather displeased with the boy sitting across from her. Geez, Issei, you really are an idiot sometimes. I really wish you'd quit calling me an idiot all the way. Issei shook his head at the girl's insult. Plus, there's no way she's a stray. Just look at how clean and pretty her fur is. Issei began to pet the back of the cat's head. The cat responded by leaning into the boy's hand, a satisfied purr escaped the feline's lips. See, she's so well trained. There's no way she's a stray. Yeah. Raynare rolled her eyes, as evidence continued to disprove her previous claim. Why do you call her a she? Have you actually checked? No. She just feels like she is. Issei looked down at the black cat in his lap. But maybe I should check. Issei flipped the cat onto its back and grabbed hold of one of its hind legs, causing the feline's yellow eyes to seemingly widen. Yep, she's a girl. AHH. 3 parallel claw marks appeared across Issei's face as the cat slowly began to walk away from the stunned boy. Her face seemed rather agitated. Raynare erupted into a huge laughing fit. Ha ha ha, come on Issei, you gotta treat a lady with more respect. Yeah. Laugh it up. Issei began to rub the scratches on his face. That was weird, it was almost like she slapped me. Issei looked on as the cat curled itself on the couch. Something feels weird about her school. Next day. After school. Whoop. That was a great workout. Issei says as he and Raynare enter through the front door of. Workout? You just knocked that night guy around for a few hours while I sat and awkwardly sipped tea in the clubroom. I don't think that Ria's lady likes me very much. Raynare complained before pinching her nose. Also, you really need a shower. You smell like death. Issei lifted up his arm before taking a whiff of his own stench, causing his face to contort in disgust. You're right. I'm gonna go shower then I'll cook something for us. With this, Raynare's expression quickly perked up. Issei made his way to the bathroom door when he immediately stopped as he heard the sound of running water mixed with a sound he didn't recognize. Is that humming? Issei immediately summoned his gauntlet and quickly opened his door. Alright. Who's there? Issei opened the door to find the cat standing alone on the bathroom floor, dripping. The shower was running and a towel that looked to have been used sat next to the cat on the floor. Meow. The cat sat still on the floor looking rather unassuming. This would change as soon her eyes fell on Issei's crimson gauntlet, which immediately captured all of her attention. I have tons of questions. Like how did you get in here and how did you turn on the shower? Issei dispelled his gauntlet as he ran his hand under the cascade of sprinkling water. But right now the water is at a perfect temperature, so I plan to take advantage of that. The black cat remains unblinking as she seemingly stares at the boy as he removes clothes. Her feline eyes light up as Issei unbuckles his belt and falls to the ground, causing the cat's lower jaw to drop open. Whoa girl. Are you okay? Are you hungry or something? It's almost like you're drooling. Later. Issei sat upright in his bed, lightly scratching the head of his feline friend as he read over a good book. The black cat began to lovingly rub herself against the boy as she purred with delight. Well, don't you two look cozy? Raynare walked up to the bed with her arms crossed. Alright cat, scooch. I'm gonna be cuddling with him tonight. The fallen angel glared down at the cat, who sat unmoving in the same spot. Fine, I guess I'll do it myself. Raynare reached over to move the cat when she was met with a sharp HSSSSSS as the cat swatted at her with her claws. Whoa. What the hell was that? Raynare backed away from the ferocious feline. You know, for a female cat, she's acting like a real bi. Alright, I get. Issei interrupted. Don't worry, I'll fix it. Issei said as he lifted the cat up in his arms and scooted to the side, making room for Raynare to lay next to him on the other side. You really do have a heck of a personality for a cat. Issei scolded his pet. The next morning. The sheets on Issei's bed began to stir as he moved to sit upright. As he attempted to relocate his right hand, he realized it was trapped between what he knew to be a girl's arm and something incredibly soft. Alright Raynare. Time to get up. Issei lightly nudged the sleeping girl with his opposite hand, receiving no response. Issei grabbed hold of the sheet and quickly yanked it away. Seriously, we're gonna be late if you don't. Issei's eyes nearly exploded as they scanned the body that lay next to him. A girl with dark hair, much longer than Raynare's, but what stood out the most would probably be the 2 cat-like tails protruding from her lower back and the cat-like ears atop her head. Normally this would have been what caught Issei's attention the most, but right now he was more focused on how she was completely in his bed. The woman began to stir and her eyes began to open slightly. Huh. Morning already? The girl immediately jumps into Issei's lap and begins to nuzzle her head into his chest. Naya. Pet me more. Wait, did you get smaller? The cat-like woman quickly scanned the area before looking down at her own arms. AHHH. My transformation wore off. The girl quickly turned to Issei and shot him an awkward smile. Heh. Well, I guess you were gonna find out anyway, so now's as good a time as any. I may not be an ordinary house cat. The cat lady winks playfully. Issei staggers backwards away from the woman. Wait, you're the cat. Issei's eyes carefully study the woman as he attempts to assess the situation. On further examination, the cat-like woman appeared to be in her early 20s, if she were human. Her golden eyes seemed to sparkle and shine in the morning twilight. She had a rather impressive figure, her breasts may be even bigger than Raynare's. See something you like? The cat girl smirks, causing Issei to quickly avert his gaze. Yes, it's true. In order to preserve my mission, I took on the form of a cat. Luckily a really nice cute guy decided to take me in and fed and cleaned me. Thanks for that by the way, and rather than that cat, please call me Kuroka. Mission? What mission? Issei asked, looking directly into Kuroko's eyes. The boy was glowing with intrigue. Oh, yes, my righteous mission. Kuroka draped her hand across her forehead as she leaned back in a dramatic pose. I, being the incredible big sister I am, have been searching for my adorable younger sister for years, and I was following a lead from a very reliable source, stating that she was here in Kuoh. Wow. That does sound pretty righteous. Issei nodded. I guess I kinda messed that up when I basically kidnapped you. Don't worry, if I didn't want to go with you the other night, I wouldn't have. Kuroka waved Issei's concern before continuing her story. I was going to leave last night, but I decided to stay after catching a glimpse of something interesting. Issei blushed intensely before covering up his crotch area with, "No, not that, but damn dude. Way to go genetics. I'm talking about your gauntlet." Wait. You recognized it? Issei jumped to his knees, putting himself mere inches from Kuroko's face. Of course I do, Sekiryute-sama. Kuroka winks. In fact, I personally know Hakuryuku as well. At this, Issei's expression exploded with a passionate fire. The vanishing dragon. Do you know him? Haha. The Catwoman chuckled. Yes, I know her very well. Her? Issei repeats. That's pretty unexpected, but nevertheless. You have to take me to her. Grasps both of Kuroko's hands, practically begging the girl. I'll see what I can do. Kuroka smiles brightly. But you have to promise me to get down. Kuroka tackles the boy into the bed as a glowing red spear passes over both of their heads. Raynare stands at the doorway to Issei's bedroom, she burning with anger so intense it was as if she was coated in a red aura. Issei Haidu. You're dead. Raynare hurled another red light spear. After school. Issei was walking alone in a small suburban area in North Kuoh carrying a large box. Ugh, this is so boring. Issei groaned. I guess I can't be angry since I was the one who asked. Flashback. Please, 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 please. Issei gravelled in a bent-over bow as he pleaded to Riaz, who was sitting at her work desk. A job, some errands, I leave and sweep the damn clubroom, but I really can't go home after school today, I fear for my life. Raynare may actually kill me. Not like I blame her. Riaz commented. That's what you get for being a playboy. Poor Raynare-chan, no girl deserves to go through something like that. Oh, come on. I didn't do anything. Issei groaned. It's not what you did, it's what you didn't do. Riaz says with a sharp glare. If you're really desperate to get out of your house, then there is one job I can give you, but I warn you it's incredibly boring. End of flashback. She was right. Issei yelled into the sky. I guess this is better than dealing with a landmine that is my house right now. I just hope my house is still standing when I get home. Issei stopped in front of a standard suburban house in the middle of a Desac. Nothing really stood out about it, except for the fact that it looked slightly newer than the rest of the houses on the block. A sharp breeze blew in from behind Issei, causing his neck hairs to stand up on end. Geez, I don't know what it is, but this place feels wrong. Knock. Knock. Oh, yes. A man sounded from inside the building. It's unlocked. Please come in and set the box in the doorway. Issei complied as he entered the stranger's home. After setting the box down, the boy Issei made his way into a large dimly lit living room where a man sat, spread out across the long couch. He was a fairly large, well-built Japanese man. His messy bangs had all been dyed blonde, and he wore a charcoal gray kimono. Hey, you're no devil. The man smirked. Ah no, but I did deliver your box. Issei said as he slowly began to back away towards the door. So you're just gonna walk away? The strange man raised an eyebrow. A look of pure shock manifested on Issei's face. How did you? And to think I came all the way to Kuoh just to see you. The man continued. What are you talking about? How do you know I'm the just who are you? Issei summoned his gauntlet, which he used to lift the man up by his shirt. You better start making sense, now. I even went through all the trouble of buying your old house so you would come and find me, but that didn't work. I had to buy a box of pornos just to get you out here. The man shot Issei with a malicious glare as he spoke. Issei released his grip as he staggered backwards. My house. No, this is I swore I would never come back here. I think I'm gonna be sick. I guess it makes you not recognize this place. I mean, after a fire like that, they had to do some major remodeling. They relocated the front door, rearranged the window in the building. The strange man nonchalantly spoke of architecture, as Issei seemed to be suffering from a panic attack. But the major changes were made to the interior. For instance, the knocked out changed the layout, so that part of the living room is where the old master bedroom used to be. Issei fell to the floor as he began hyperventilating. I like the open concept, but it's kinda awkward knowing that there were two burnt up corpses only a few feet from where we're standing. After the strange man says this, Issei immediately stops shaking and stares up at the man. Being burned alive. I hear it's a terrible way to go. So painful. If only someone could have saved them. Shut up, Issei mumbled, still hunched over on his knees. I can't imagine what the survivor's guilt must be like, considering it was your own parents who you lost. The man shakes his head in pity. Do you ever think about what could have been? Shut up. Issei said louder this time as he started to rise to his feet. What your life would have been like if they hadn't died. How much different it would have been. If only you were a few steps faster. If only I hadn't hesitated. If only you'd have reacted faster. It was almost like the man was taunting Issei at this point. If only you hadn't been so weak. Shut up. Issei screamed. Welsh dragon balance breaker. Issei was coated in his crimson armor, as well as a thick and powerful aura, causing a small whirlwind inside the building. Haha. So maybe the rumors are true about you being a prodigy. The man shielded his eyes from the intense red glow in the otherwise dark room. That is an impressive amount of power he's released. I'll show you weakness, you bastard. Issei began charging at the man as he prepared a devastating right hook. Crack. Impressive, but nowhere near extraordinary. The strange man says as he effortlessly grasps Issei's arm inches in front of his face, his grip so strong that the armor begins to crack and chip. Wait, how did you? Issei was interrupted by a massive gust of wind and an unrelenting wave of energy. Issei looked on in sheer disbelief as 12 gorgeous black wings sprouted from the man's back. In a single flap, a gigantic gale of wind shot forward, destroying every window in the house and blowing down the front door, but the wind was also strong enough to completely destroy Issei's armor, leaving him with only his gauntlet. So strong with that Issei dropped to the floor, completely losing consciousness. A strange fallen angel walked up to the boy and smirked. This might actually be fun. The balance breaker let out a violent scream as the green jewels on his armor began to flicker. Come on, Issei, 10 seconds left. You have to hold it. The man with the dyed hair spoke as he held a stopwatch in his left hand. Fight through the pain and you can do it. Easy for you to say. The armor began to glow red as cracks began to form on the metal-like material. 5-4. The strange man began to count down. His eyes moved from the timer to Issei, then back to the timer. 3, 2. The cracks on Issei's armor spread further, to the point where they almost encompass all of Issei's body. Issei's screams echo throughout the dark room. Time. The fallen angel announces as he taps the stopwatch. Issei finally releases the armor and falls to the ground in a heavy pant. 30 minutes, pretty impressive, kid. Ha ha ha. Issei wiped the sweat from his brow as he rose to his feet. I thought how I was gonna die. It felt like my body was being ripped apart. No pain, no gain. The man said with a shrug. Azazel, you're a dick. Issei said as he walked over to a light switch. The large overhead lights flickered on, completely illuminating the room. Issei and Azazel were standing in the middle of a large boxing ring. To the right of the ring were some free weights and other training equipment, to the left was a collection of various electronic devices. How long did it take you to build this place, and more importantly, how much did it cost? Someday you'll understand, when it comes to a man cave you really can't put a price tag on. Azazel crossed his arms and nodded his head in admiration of his own creation. And don't you be a bit too casual, my young pupil. I told you to call me ultra, super, epic, master of all things cool, Azazel Sensei Sama. Yeah. And I distinctly remember saying, oh god, I'm gonna die, quit throwing light spears at me. To which you did not stop throwing the light spears. Issei said as he retrieved a sports drink from a refrigerator located near the free weights. Well, you didn't die now, did you? Azazel pulled out a notebook and began jotting things down. You really think you should be drinking that right after training? Issei opens up the bottle and takes a swig of neon green liquid. Yeah, I'll be okay. I'm not gonna, never mind. Issei sprints to a bathroom and slams the door. Blarg. Azazel made his way to the bathroom and leaned himself up against the door. Let it all out, you worked hard today. You should probably take a shower while you're there. Yeah, that's a good idea. Issei says through the door of the bathroom. 1 shower later. That actually felt amazing. Issei said as he stretched back onto his armchair. He and Azazel had moved from the man cave to Azazel's living room. You actually did a pretty nice job renovating my childhood home that burned down and killed my parents. You know, a therapist would tell you that you have to let go of that tragedy in order to progress as a person, but since I am trying to groom you into a walking murder machine that obliterates anything that comes in your path, I'll tell you to hold on to that anger so that it can fester and boil and explode into violent fits. Azazel said as he sipped his coffee. Thanks, I guess. The two sit in awkward silence for a few moments before Issei decides to speak back up. So how am I, strength-wise? Relatively, I mean. How do I stack up in the supernatural world? Oh. Well, how do I put this? Azazel took a moment to think, clearly caught off guard by Issei's question. Physically you're definitely strong and you far outclass most sacred gear users, but you are probably the weakest of the Longinus users I've met. Not that you haven't worked hard or anything. In fact you probably train as hard as any other Longinus user, but they were all born stronger than you. What do you mean? Issei put all his focus into the conversation, his eyes shining with determination. Well, to put it bluntly. You were never actually supposed to awaken Drake's power, you know. Azazel tried to put it lightly, but Issei simply replied with, I know, but what does that have to do with being weak? Well, you were born like any other human. By that I mean you have absolutely no magical potential, and your body wasn't really meant to handle Drake's power. The boosted gear changes and adapts to its user's body, and some bodies can just handle more energy than others. It's almost phenomenal how strong you are now, considering you've been working with a disadvantage. Azazel finished then took another sip of coffee, his face locked in a serious yet somber expression. Whoa, really? Issei asked, looking both confused and upset. Drake says I was the youngest user ever to unlock the balance breaker. I thought I was pretty strong. It may be true that you were the youngest ever Welsh dragon to use a balance breaker, but it took you 9 years to do so. Azazel locked eyes with Issei. Let me put you in perspective. Vali unlocked her balance breaker in 8 months, when she was 9. She's also astronomically stronger than you. If you two fought right now it wouldn't last a minute. Then again she is half devil. Issei's face changed to one of despair. His entire life had amounted to so little, he was nowhere near the strength of his rival. After all these years of training and dedication, their epic battle would be a one-sided slaughter. What am I gonna do? How could I possibly bridge the gap? How can I get stronger? Well, you sure you won't reconsider Ria's Grimory's offer to become a devil? Azazel asked, receiving a deathly glare from Issei. Didn't think so. I don't get you. You know the Grimories are notoriously affectionate to their servants, and Ria's is incredibly attractive. If I was 17 I'd be all over that. The point? Issei clapped, getting the man's attention. Well, the point is that Lucifer called dibs on you, so I can't make you a fallen angel, especially since we're trying to establish peace. Stealing you wouldn't be a good idea. The fallen angel explained, causing Issei to sweat awkwardly. But there is something I can do. And what would that be? Issei deadpanned, not wanting to get caught up in some crazy scheme. We're gonna turn you into a dragon. Azazel locked eyes with Issei, he was exuding passion and enthusiasm. The dragon, huh? Issei said enthusiastically. And how exactly are you gonna do that? Well, I'm not actually gonna do it. Drake is. Azazel pointed at Issei's left arm. All I'm gonna do is help him out a bit. What's the catch? Issei still refused to give the fallen angel a single inch. There's no such thing as free power. Azazel averted his gaze. I've never actually performed the procedure before, and the process will undoubtedly be extremely painful. But if it works your power will grow immensely. Your body will be able to handle much more of Drake's power, not to mention your potential for magic will be off the charts. What do you say? Azazel stretched out his hand. Issei doesn't move to shake the man's hand, rather he simply leans back, arms firmly crossed. This is not a great idea. Issei's eyes rolled as he contemplated the poorly thought out idea. I don't think you should just disregard this opportunity, partner. Who knows when we'll have an opportunity like this again. Drake threw his 2 cents into the conversation, causing Issei to reevaluate the situation. Issei glanced back at Azazel's outstretched hand before looking back down at his left arm. The boy's stern expression quickly softened into a more compliant one. Fine. Issei met the fallen angel's hand with his own. Let's do it. Excellent. Azazel began violently shaking the boy's hand as he glowed with excitement. I can't wait to get started. Great. Issei said with a slight eye roll, before quickly tensing up as a shiver ran down his back. What is it? Azazel asked, realizing something was off. I sense something. Issei replied as he scanned the room. Something dangerous, almost unnatural. Thud. Azazel's door broke off from its hinges as it flew inwards. Clouds of dust began to flood the entrance, due to the force of the impact. Issei Haidu. A thunderous roar could be heard from the entrance, causing both Issei and Azazel to tremble. You're dead meat. Raynare came crashing in through the clouds of dust, a furious expression painted across her face. Issei screamed as he was pinned to the floor by the winged girl. How did you? Issei was silenced mid-sentence by a light spear pointed directly at his throat. No. You don't get to talk. You just get to listen. Raynare whispered directly into Issei's ear as she had him pinned. First, I find you in bed with a completely woman wrapped in your sheets. Raynare stood up, revealing she was dressed in her fallen angel attire, revealing her near-flawless figure. Then you disappear for 3 days. That's it, you're totally dead. Raynare repositioned her spear so that it was pointing directly for Issei's forehead. 3 days. Issei turned his head to look at Azazel. The fuck, Azazel? Azazel Raynare stumbled back off of Issei, her eyes filled with shock. What are you doing here, Azazel-sama? It's not my fault, Issei, you'd keep passing out after training sessions, and I didn't think it'd bother you how long I kept you here. Azazel lifted his hand as if to signify it was out of his control. And how do you know that pathetic former servant of mine? I'm not mad that you kept me here for 3 days. I'm mad that we only had 3 training sessions in 3 days. How pathetic is that? Issei shook his head in shame before turning his body so he could see both Raynare and Azazel. Well, she's my girlfriend. Issei's words caused Raynare to turn away from him with a hump. Ex-girlfriend. Issei is unsure of the situation, causing Raynare's defiant face to shift to one of concern. Sorry to hear that. Azazel lowered his head in condolence. Yeah, I guess I messed up pretty bad, huh? Issei rubbed the back of his head as he put up a fake smile. But there's nobody to blame but myself. Hey, wait. Raynare tried to speak up, but she was utterly ignored by the 2 men. I'd like to say it happens to all of us, but I've never actually been dumped before. Azazel rubs his chin as he thinks for a bit. So, what's it like? I mean, it's not the best feeling in the world, but we'd only been going out for like a week, so I'll probably get over it. Issei said rather bluntly. Hey. Raynare yelled, sounding rather offended this time. If it makes you feel better, there are way hotter girls out there than Raynare. In fact, I don't even know why you settled for her. I mean, the Gremory girl has a better rack than her anyway. Azazel said in a very straightforward tone. I don't think you realize how much you sound like a pedophile every time you bring up Rias. A bead of sweat rolled down the side of Issei's head as he tried to get out of the awkward situation. Whatever, she's like almost 18, right? Azazel brushed off the boys as he continued with the conversation. Anyway, I can hook you up with a smoking hot Grigori if fallen angels are your type. Hey. Raynare screamed, finally getting the attention of the other 2. We didn't break up. I just got mad, geez. Oh, okay. Issei slams his fist into his palm. Sorry, I'm still new at this whole dating thing. Anyway, how did you find me? I can sense your aura, but I didn't find you earlier because it would only be active for a short period of time. Raynare crossed her arms, still upset due to recent events. My question is, what are you doing here with my old boss? Issei just agreed to undergo one of my experiments. I'm gonna make him a dragon. Azazel leaned towards Issei. I still think you should try and find some other girl. This one is a bit much to handle. Azazel attempted to whisper, but he was heard loud and clear. After quietly fuming for a few seconds, Raynare decided to speak up. Issei. You should note that Azazel's experiments rarely succeed. Kinda like Raynare when she's assigned on missions. Azazel interrupted. Anyway. Raynare redirected the attention to herself. Issei, are you sure you want to do this? Yeah. Issei raised his fist in determination. I have to get stronger and I believe this is the way to do it. Fine. Raynare let out a defeated sigh. But if you're gonna do this, then I'm gonna help. That way Azazel can't fuck it up and kill you. Azazel positioned himself in between the 2 in order to regain attention. Whatever. Let's get started. Moments later in Azazel's man cave. Alright, my assistant. Ready the patient. Azazel, who was wearing goggles and a white lab coat, began to fiddle with some electrical equipment. And why are you wearing that? Raynare came wearing a tight-fitting pink nurse outfit, including a pink headpiece with a red cross on it. Issei was following close behind. I'm trying to comfort Issei before his operation. Speaking of operations. Issei said as he positioned himself on a medical bed as Raynare adjusted his bindings. What am I in for? I'll tell you, but first do me a favor and summon your gauntlet. Azazel requested, to which Issei complied. Azazel immediately strapped a large white bracelet, which was connected to a large machine by wire, onto the red gauntlet. And then a smaller identical bracelet onto Issei's wrist. It's simple, the boosted gear already has the ability to convert human DNA to that of a dragon, such as when you gave your left arm to Drake in exchange for power. What I'm going to do is infuse your body with magic energy as well as the boosted gear in order to supercharge that process. I just hope you don't blow up. Yeah, that makes sense. Issei nodded before quickly pausing. Wait. Blow up. Alright, let's go. Azazel quickly flips a switch in traditional mad scientist fashion and the process begins. Aye aye. Issei screamed as magic began to forcefully pour into his body. Sparks of blue lightning began to crackle across the boy's body as the green gem on his gauntlet began to glow. Explosion. A red glow overtook Issei's gauntlet as the shape began to change. The gauntlet grew in length and a second green gem emerged down Issei's arm. Multiple yellow spikes protruded from the dragon-like arm as power began to surge in the mystical relic. Hey Azazel, what does blowing up feel like, because I think I'm gonna blow up. Issei's eyes began to glow a bright green as the transformation began. Organification. Issei's pupils began to slant into a reptilian shape, the teeth in the screaming boy's mouth began to sharpen into fangs, and a thick red aura bursted from Issei's body, causing Issei's steel restraints to fly off from his arms. A beast-like roar erupted from Issei's mouth as the transformation continued. Alright, I think that's good enough. Azazel flipped his switch down, shutting the machine off. The green glow on Issei's gauntlet died down, as did the boy screaming. Issei. Hey, can you hear me? Issei quietly rose from the bed, his pupils still sharp and slanted, giving him a menacing appearance. Issei quickly shut his eyes, and when he opened them the reptilian pupil had disappeared and the bright green glow had died down, leaving him with dark green irises. Whoa. Issei raises his arms as he feels out his new body. This is so strange, but it feels amazing. I feel so strong, like I just boosted 10 times or something. Yes, I can feel it, you're much stronger now. Azazel said as he scanned the boy's body. You're probably about 60% dragon now, a bit more than my original goal. Sorry about that. You want to test it out? Of course. Issei responded as he raised his fist. But not here. Don't want to destroy my awesome man cave, do we? Azazel said, causing the boy to dismiss his gauntlet. But where can we go? Azazel and Issei both mulled over the topic in their minds for a few moments until an idea popped into Issei's mind. I know just where we can go. Later at the Orc. So you're telling me you're a dragon now? Rhea stood firmly in front of Issei, her arms crossed and a sour expression painted across her face. Well, technically half dragon. Issei corrected her with a goofy smile. Odd, and you also think it's a good idea to bring the governor of fallen angels directly into my territory? Rhea said, her sour expression remained unchanged. Oh, come on. He's cool, he says he knows your brother. We just want to use your training facility to test my new abilities. Issei begged. Why not let him, Rhea's? Akeno butted into the conversation. I can already sense he's far more powerful than the last time we met. I'd love to see the power of a dragon firsthand. Fine, whatever. Road finally relented and the group moved to the outdoor battlefield. Are you ready for Issei? I'm gonna try to beat you into the ground, so prepare yourself. Azazel took a battle stance and his wings sprouted from the back of his kimono. Ha. Same here. Issei also took a battle pose. Let's go drag. Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker. Issei erupted in an intense aura as his armor formed around him. The eruption of energy kicked up a dust storm that caused a huge sandstorm to encompass the battlefield and caused the spectators to take cover. That power, it's so intense. Rhea shielded her eyes from the sandstorm that caused her skirt to dance and reveal her panties. I know. Akeno stood straight up in the middle of the swirling sand. Her eyes closed tight and her face flushed a bright red. I think I'm Dot. Whoa, this really is incredible. I feel like I can take on anyone. Even you. Issei rocked forward, a glowing red trail following in his wake. A lightning-fast punch slammed across Azazel's face. Issei flipped backwards to create some distance, but also to admire his attack. As the dust cleared, it revealed Azazel's smiling face looking completely unscathed. Is that the best you got? Azazel fired golden light spears at Issei, to which the boy simply jumped over, but instead of crashing out of bounds, the spears stopped mid-air and turned around. The spears shot forward directly into Issei's back, causing a massive explosion that sent Issei flying forward. As Issei was flying forward, Azazel grabbed him by the face with one hand and began to squeeze, forming cracks on his armor. Oh, come on, Issei. I was hoping for a real fight from my creation, but it looks like you need some more training. Oh well, any last words? Jaya. The crimson red tail wrapped around Azazel's throat, stopping him mid-sentence. Yeah. Issei said as Azazel released his grip to focus on his neck. Serves up. With a powerful whip of Issei's tail, Azazel went flying into the air. Issei slammed his legs down onto the ground before rocketing back into the air. Issei caught up with Azazel's body mid-air and with a powerful hand drop, Issei knocked the fallen angel's body into the ground, much like a volleyball. Boost. 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 Issei's aura intensified as he stared down the recovering Azazel. Ready for round 2. The two men let out an intense battle cry as they charged headfirst at each other. When they finally collided, a flurry of punches, kicks, and blocks erupted from both parties. The close quarters mid-air combat appeared to be a stalemate as neither side gave any ground until Issei rocketed up into the air, separating the two. Azazel shot up as well, hoping to close the distance, but Issei had anticipated this. He. Double dragon shot. A ball of energy appeared in front of each of Issei's fists. Issei fired each of his fists forward as Azazel was mere inches away from him, causing a massive explosion that knocked both fighters to the ground. Jaya. Issei yelled as he slammed onto the ground. Damn. He's faster than I thought. The two quickly met in the center of the battlefield and another close quarters melee broke out. The two combatants let out a battle cry that could be heard for miles. But the powerful flap of Azazel's wings, Issei was knocked back to the ground, but the boy got back up quickly, and the two charged forward at each other, and each of them loaded powerful punches in their face. Both of the fists collided. Issei's with Azazel's stomach and Azazel's with Issei's face. Both of them staggered backwards, knees wobbling as if they were both to collapse. The stalemate would be broken at last when a crack spread across Issei's helmet, which would eventually shatter the entire armor, dropping Issei to the ground. Issei groaned. "My everything hurts." Azazel walked forward to congratulate Issei, but before he could speak up, Issei continued. "So, just how much were you holding back?" Azazel smiled as he lifted Issei to his feet. "For a majority of the fight I was going about 30%, but that final punch was about 40% of my full strength, and it didn't kill you, so congrats." "Only 40%. It may not have killed me, but I feel like dying." Issei limped over to the sideline, followed closely by Azazel. He wouldn't have to go far as he was crowded by the girls. "Issei, that was incredible. I want you to be part of my peerage now more than ever." Rias beamed with enthusiasm as she praised the boy. "Tell you what, as thanks for letting me use this battleground, I'll join your peerage," Issei said in an exhausted voice, causing a gigantic smile to form across Ria's face. "As soon as you're strong enough to do it while I'm conscious." With that, Ria's smile disappeared. "Good enough." A voice echoed from an area behind the crowd. The whole group turned around to see a gorgeous woman who looked to be in her 20s. Her wavy long hair was as blue as the ocean, and it fell far past her shoulders. Eyes were a pale aqua green, and her lips were red and inviting. Her gorgeous hergless figure perfectly filled out the sparkling dark blue cocktail dress, which stopped just past her knees, showing off her pearl white skin. "I couldn't even sense her," Azazel said as the whole group stood by in shock. The strange woman made her way up to Issei, and she pulled the boy's face into her ample chest. "Congratulations, you have been chosen as my mate." "Mate," the whole group screamed in unison at the outrageous claim. Issei gasps for air as he pushes himself out of the blue-haired woman's bust. "Mate? What are you talking about?" Issei backs himself away from the stranger before turning to Azazel. "Do you know who this is?" Azazel pondered the woman's identity with a puzzled expression across his face. "I don't know who she is, but I have a good idea about what she is." "You're a dragon, aren't you?" Azazel's eyes beamed at the woman. "A dragon? But she looks so human-like." Rias interrupted. "Yeah, so does Issei." Azazel's gaze didn't leave the blue-haired stranger as he answered the question. "So how about you tell us your name and why you're here?" "My name is Tiamat," the woman said softly with no emotions in her words. But the name alone was enough to make Azazel quake in his sandals. "And I'm here for him." Tiamat slowly lifted a finger at Issei. "He is to be my mate." The sweet bead rolled down Issei's face as Tiamat's comment caught the boy off guard. Yeah, I heard you the first time, but that's not gonna happen." Raynare perked up as Issei refused the beautiful woman's advances. "I don't have time for that. I want to fight the most powerful guys that exist, a wife and kids would just get in the way." And with that, Raynare let out a disappointed sigh. The grin formed on Issei's face as an idea popped into his head. "Tell you what. You say you're a dragon, right?" Tiamat nodded slowly. "Then how about a bet? I'll agree to do whatever you ask of me if you beat me in a fight." "Wait, Issei." Azazel immediately interrupted, fear flooding from his lungs. "You can't fight her." Tiamat is a Azazel nearly bit his tongue trying to stop the words from leaving his mouth as Tiamat raised an open palm hand in the fallen angel. She then turned her head in Issei's direction. "I accept." Then the female dragon snapped her fingers and a veil of blue magic coated Issei. The blue energy began to wipe away the cuts and bruises Issei had obtained in his bout with Azazel. "Whenever you're ready." The tense face appeared on the male fallen angels as sweat rolled down his face. Rias was the first to notice and decided to say something. "What's the problem? You don't think Issei's actually gonna lose, do you?" "Issei doesn't stand a chance." Azazel grimaced, getting strange looks from the girls. "Tiamat is a dragon king," Azazel explained. "Tiamat, the cow's charm, a dragon. According to myth, she once became angry with one of her mates and killed every male dragon in her territory, which is probably why she wants Issei now. It's entirely possible that her power exceeds even mine." Ria's eyes widen in shock as she returns her attention to the battlefield. "Whoa. What was that?" Issei evaluated his fully healed body. "I feel incredible. How much power do we have?" 100%, partner. I warn you, don't take it easy on her. If you're serious about this fight, then you need to go all out." "I gotcha, partner." Issei lifted his arm and his gauntlet began to glow. "Welsh dragon balance breaker. Alright, let's go." Tiamat used her fingers to motion for Issei to attack. Issei flared his aura before rocketing forward like a red fireball. Tiamat simply leaned slightly to the left, allowing Issei to fly past her and crash into a nearby bush. Issei growled before launching himself into the air. Issei summoned energy balls to each of his fists. Issei rapidly thrusted his fist, shooting hundreds of red energy balls in Tiamat's vicinity, kicking up a gigantic cloud of dust and smoke. Tiamat rocketed up from the cloud, a tail of smoke trailed behind her. In a single bound Tiamat had already met Issei's height and then some. Tiamat raised a single leg, giving Issei an eye-widening glimpse at her undercarriage, before delivering a powerful dropkick, sending him back to earth like a meteor. Crash. Issei slammed into the ground, forming a giant crater at least 20 feet deep. Are you finished yet? This is boring. Tiamat deadpanned as she looked down into the crater. The dragon was ready to wrap things up when she suddenly raised an eyebrow. Ah ha ha ha, Issei panted as he lumbered out of the crater. Haha, that's the best you got. Issei shifted into a fighting stance and Tiamat smirked slightly. Issei let out an intense battle cry as the gems along his armor began to glow. Boost. 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 Round 2 starts now. Issei shoots himself forward as he reads a devastating punch. Issei jumped to an incredible speed, so fast that he disappeared from sight. He reappeared mere inches from Tiamat's face as he delivered the powerful punch. The force of the punch obliterated the earth, kicking up even more dust and forming a second deep crater below Issei's feet. When the dust cleared and settled, Tiamat was no longer there, leaving Issei floating alone above the crater. Oh, crap. That might have been a bit muac. Issei flew forward, revealing that Tiamat had just delivered a devastating kick to the sole of his back. Issei skipped twice across the ground before rolling into a stop on the ground. Ack. Ack. Issei coughed up a bit of blood into his helmet. Issei rocketed back into the fray with a violent growl. Well, I do admire your fighting spirit, Tiamat says as she elegantly leans underneath a straightforward punch from Issei before firing 2 quick yet damaging punches into the boy's stomach. But sometimes you need more than spirit. Tiamat then swiftly kicks the boy away. Issei slammed back into the ground, this time he was a bit slower to get. The beating he's been taking has begun to take its toll on Issei's body. Ha ha ha, grrr. I'll show you spirit. Issei did a backflip to separate himself from the woman. Issei lifted both of his arms parallel to each other and began to charge 2 energy balls, one on the end of each fist. Let's see how you stand up to everything I've got. The 2 energy balls merged into one. Boost. 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 Each time Issei boosted his power, the energy ball increased in size and his aura grew more intense to the point where the ground beneath him began to break apart. Issei cocked back his arm like a hammer on a pistol and readied his attack. This name needs some work, but right now we're going with Dragon Cannon. Issei slammed his fist into the giant energy ball, causing an enormous energy blast directly at Tiamat. The energy blast barreled towards the blue-haired woman like a locomotive, destroying the ground beneath it as it traveled. Tiamat's eyes sharpened as she bent her legs into an explosive stance. In one swift movement she rocketed up and over the energy blast as it raced past her, obliterating the ground where she had previously stood. She landed directly in front of Issei, who took a fighting stance, but the fight had already ended. Issei began to glow red as his armor disappeared from his body, dropping his body to the ground. Tiamat made her way to where the tired Issei was laying, seductively swaying as she walked. Well, I won. Issei moved his head to look up at the woman, her piercing blue eyes showing no emotion. Now you must do whatever I ask. No. Raynare and Riaz both objected simultaneously. Then all attention shifted to Riaz, wondering why she would object. Riaz's face flushed red as all eyes pointed in her direction. And no, Raynare. Riaz turned to the fallen angel. You can't object, Issei must remain true to his word. Even if that means some strange woman will have her hands all over him. Taking him away from you, making him hers. They act like it's not that big a deal, but you're always gonna remember your first time. The confused stares only intensified after Riaz began to ramble, but she quickly quieted as she noticed the increased attention. Ahem. Issei faked a cough as he rose to his feet. Riaz does have a point. I don't want to shrink from my words. Issei takes a respectful bow. You have bested me in combat, as such your word is my command. It's good to see that at least one of the incarnations of Drake has some form of manners. Tiamat walked up directly in front of Issei, to the point where he could look up the woman's skirt. While Tiamat's human disguise was beautiful and the dress looked expertly made. The only flaw in her disguise was the fact she neglected to create herself any underwear. Very dot. I will make you a very simple request. Tiamat leaned in towards Issei. Her beautiful face is mere centimeters from Issei's, causing the boy to blush. From this point on you will be my student and I will teach you to be a proper dragon. Issei let out a short sigh. As you wish. Wait, did you say student? Yes, from now on you will be my student. Tiamat began to feel up the boy's body, rubbing her hands across his chest and arms. Yes. This is a good start, a strong body. First thing we will work on is your magical aptitude. Oh, that's a relief. Issei's face was still shining a bright red due to the contact between himself and the beautiful woman. I thought you were gonna ask me to be your mate. Why would I do that? I've just proven today that even at your strongest you cannot defy me. I can force you to mate with me whenever I wish. Tiamat said this dead on, not a hint of sarcasm or humor in her voice. Her hand then moved below Issei's waist. What do you know? This is rather nice as well. Issei screamed like a girl as he ran from the woman's touch. He falls back to the ground. This was the last straw for his body and he collapsed, losing consciousness. Issei's house the next day. Greg. Issei lets out a growl as he sits up in his own bed. Damn. I still can't believe I got utterly destroyed. My head is killing me. Issei placed his hand on his temple as anguish covered his face. Issei's sheets began to stir as a low groan could be heard from an unknown mass in the bed. Issei rolled his eyes as he groaned. Of course. Who is it this time? Issei quickly flipped up his covers, revealing a completely Tiamat lying in a sleep-like position, but very much awake. Yeah, I should have guessed. Issei was rather unfazed, if anything he looked rather annoyed, probably due to his headache. Issei, at last you are awake. Tiamat didn't move from her curled-up position. She only blinked once as she addressed the boy. Why are you in my bed? Issei deadpanned. Oh Issei, you look hurt, is your head alright? Tiamat said, still moving. Please, don't change the subject. Issei replied. Here, let me help. Tiamat made her way closer to the boy, her hand cloaked in the same magic energy that had healed Issei earlier. Issei moved to object, but words didn't escape his lips. As the blue-haired woman rose to meet Issei's forehead, her large breast shifted and bounced. The incredible volume on the mounds of flesh mesmerized the teenage boy. Tiamat placed her hand on Issei's forehead, immediately elevating the pain. Issei looks up into the dragon's cold eyes. Issei. The woman says. I'm hungry. Alright. Issei backed away, destroying any romantic moment that might have occurred. But first you have to put on some clothes. With that, pajamas magically formed onto the girl's body in a flash of blue light. Of course you could have done that all along. The two make their way downstairs and into the kitchen, where Raynare and Koka were sitting together drinking coffee. Oh Issei, you're up. Raynare said as she closed the book she was reading and put down her mug. Morning you too. Issei smiles as he passes the table on his way to the kitchen. Issei looked down at the stovetop as he prepared to cook some eggs. I'm actually surprised that you're still here, Koka. I was sure that Raynare was gonna kick you to the curb. When Issei looked back up, Koka was gone, leaving an upset-looking Raynare. Suddenly Koka pounces from behind and envelopes Issei in a hug. Of course not. Raynare-chan is super nice. The catgirl brings her face closer to Issei, to the point where her mouth is mere centimeters away from his ear. But she needs to watch out, or I'll take advantage of her kindness and then take advantage of Issei-kun. Issei awkwardly laughs as he shrugs off the catgirl. When he looks back up, Raynare was staring daggers at him. Anyway, who's hungry? Tiamat's arm shot up at record speeds, but her face didn't show half the enthusiasm. Yeah, me too. I'll whip us up something tasty. Issei began to work on the food, meanwhile Raynare lowered her head and looked back down at her book. The fallen angel let out a depressed sigh. Hey Issei, since it's Saturday, let's go to the park. There is something I want to talk about. Just the two of us. Raynare's voice was shrouded in subtle sorrow, which Issei being himself did not pick up on. Sure. Issei said dismissively as he stirred some eggs. Later at the park. Issei and Raynare were sitting on rather isolated benches, neither of them spoke a word. Ahem. Issei was the first to break the silence as he faked a cough. The weather is really nice today. It was a good idea to go for a walk. Issei smiled slightly at his girlfriend, but Raynare did not smile back. Issei, do you love me? Raynare said softly with her head lowered to the ground, making it very difficult to hear. What? Issei raised his eyebrows. I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear you. Do you love me? Raynare turned her body towards the boy, practically yelling at the boy. Issei leaned away from the girl. What do you mean? I don't get it. What are you talking about? I'm talking about you, Dumbus. Do you love me, yes or no? Raynare was getting angry at this point. Where did this come from? Issei was utterly confused and desperately wanted to get the situation back under control. Have I done something wrong? You really are an idiot, aren't you? Raynare has passed her boiling point now. You wake up one morning with some beautiful stranger in your bed, you don't say anything, and then you disappear for 3 days. What do you think? Yeah, that wasn't cool. I'm really sorry. But I already told you that I was with Koka because she knew about the white dragon. And I lost track of time with Azazel because of his intense training. It's no excuse, but I wasn't being unfaithful. Issei pleaded, but Raynare's eyes didn't waver. This isn't about you being unfaithful. Raynare started the boy down. I just want you to tell me you love me. Issei, please. She was practically begging at this point, but Issei simply looked away, which was all the answer Raynare needed. So that's it, huh? I should know. I forced you into this relationship, it makes sense even if you went along with it, that never meant you loved me. Wait a second. You haven't done anything wrong, this is not your fault. Issei pleaded once more with the fallen angel. You're a great beautiful girl. You're smart, funny, you can be very nice when you want to, and you've been an amazing girlfriend. I like you a lot, but love is something complicated. Yeah. I've heard all this before. Tears began to build up in the girl's eyes as she let her emotions pour out her mouth. It's not you, it's me. You're a great girl. It's complicated. I've heard it all and it never ends well. Hold it. Issei's voice picked up as the two had broken out into a full-on fight. I'm not breaking up with you. I don't want you to leave. Yeah, but you'd get over it, wouldn't you? Raynare crossed her arms and looked away, she was clearly on the verge of sobbing. That's what you said to Azazel, right? You said you'd be sad, but you'd probably get over it. I don't doubt it. What would you do if you ran into Ria's arms? She is prettier than me, right? I heard you two talking about that too. Maybe you'll be able to tell her that you love her. I wouldn't bet on it. This time Issei turned away from Raynare, tired of being yelled at. And why is that? Raynare wouldn't give him an inch of vulnerability, and Issei didn't give her a response. Huh, no answer, well I have an answer for you. You wouldn't be able to answer, because you could never love her. You couldn't love her because love means devotion and you could never do that. Raynare, drop it. Issei growled at the girl, his eyes lit a bright green. No, you're gonna hear this. Raynare slammed her hand down on the bench. You can't do devotions, it's too much of an inconvenience. If you had to devote yourself to someone then you'd have to have some responsibility. You couldn't run off betting your life on some random fight and we can't have that, I mean how else would you distract yourself from your 10 years dead parents? Raynare immediately slams a hand over her mouth. Issei, I'm so sorry. Issei digs in his pocket and slams some bills down on the bench, not saying a single word. What's that? Raynare said, tears were flowing from her eyes. That should be enough for a hotel room for a night. It's kinda sleazy, but I was hoping the two of us would end up in one together. Needless to say I won't be needing it anymore, but you might. Issei turned around to face him. Regardless of how calm and confident his voice was, tears filled his dark green eyes. I did say that I'd probably get over it eventually, if we ever broke up. I guess now we get to figure out how long that will take, huh? Issei slipped his hands in his pockets, leaving Raynare alone as the sun began to set. Elsewhere in the park. A few meters from where Issei and Raynare had their big fight, stood alone a young-looking blonde-haired girl in a maid's dress. A small grin sprawled across the girl's face. Interesting. 4 black wings, crow-like wings sprouted from the girl's back and she shot up into the evening sky. Morning light entered Issei's bedroom, just so that it flashed over the boy's closed eyelid. Grrrrrrrr, Issei growled as he was forcefully awoken from a peaceful slumber. Beep. 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 Issei's alarm began to blare, causing the boy to suffer even more strife. Issei exclaimed, shooting up from his sheets, a furious expression painted across his face. The boosted gear manifested itself onto Issei's left arm as he raised it into the air. Shut up. Issei fired a red energy blast at his ringing alarm clock, completely destroying the device. Ha 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 ha. Issei panted as he recovered from his short tantrum and began to rise from her slumber. Wow, Issei. I understand grieving, but isn't this a bit much? Tiamat said as she rubbed her eyes. The curvaceous woman sat up in the bed, causing the sheets to drop from her body and revealing her large yet firm breasts. I'm not grieving. Issei snarled, his eyes sharpening into vicious daggers. You're right, more like venting. Tiamat's words hit bullseyes, causing Issei to growl angrily. Oh, grow up. Get started on breakfast, I'm starving. Tiamat got up from the bed and made her way to the shower, leaving Issei to stir in his emotions. Issei's gaze was locked on the ceiling as his mind flooded with thoughts. Fuck. Flashback. I did say that I'd probably get over it eventually if we ever broke up. I guess now we get to figure out how long that will take, huh? Issei slipped his hands in his pockets, leaving Raynare alone as the sun began to set. Issei, wait. The black-haired girl chased after him. She was only a few steps behind him when Issei decided to stop. Issei turned around and met Raynare with a vicious gaze. Tears remained in his eyes, but no sorrow, no forgiveness. Only anger and hurt, which finally allowed Raynare to realize she had crossed a line, one that is very difficult to uncross. Words failed the fallen angel as she looks into Issei's eyes. I'm sorry. Tears flood the girl's eyes as she runs off. Issei's eyes soften at the scene. Wait. Issei tries to call out, but it is too late. Raynare had already spread her black wings and disappeared into the evening sky. HMPH. Anger returned to his eyes as Issei stormed off in the other direction. End of flashback. Grrrrrrr. Issei shot up in his bed before he shuffled to the door. Tiamat, I'm going out. Issei slammed the door with such force that it shook the house. Cut to Tiamat, sticking her head out through the shower curtain. What? The blue-haired girl twisted her head back and forth in confusion. What about breakfast? At the local gym. Issei fires a powerful fist into a suspended punching bag, shattering the chain and sending it flying into the opposite wall, before landing in a pile of discarded bags. Ha 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 ha. Issei panted as he unraveled the athletic tape across his knuckles. Ha ha. Put up another bag up. Issei shouted at one of the gym assistants, who quickly met the violent boy's demands. The group of muscular gym goers were left to watch in horror as Issei savagely brutalized another punching bag. He's a monster. One of the men was brave enough to say, causing the rest of them to nod along. After disposing of at least 14 punching bags, Issei decided to leave the gym, a bit calmer and then when he had arrived. Issei let out a deep sigh as he walked along a nearly deserted sidewalk. You know, I actually feel a bit better. Issei said to himself. I guess violence is a good outlet for negative emotions. As Issei continued his walk, he made his way to a nearby park. Issei opened up his smartphone and checked the time. Whoa, geez. It's already noon. I better pick something up for Tiamat or else she might actually bite her head off. Issei turned around as he prepared to head back to his house but was stopped dead in his tracks by a girl's scream. Issei rushed over to where the noise was coming from but stopped before engaging in conflict. Issei surveyed the scene to find 3 young men harassing a young blonde nun. The men were standing huddled in a group. The one in the middle was short and fat with a small dumb grin on his face. The one to his left was tall and lanky, he had a buzz cut and scraggly mustache. The one on the right had scruffy blonde hair and a scar under his lip. All 3 of them were sporting black jackets and sunglasses, as if they were all part of the same gang. Hey, I know her. Issei realized in his mind. That's Raynare's friend, Alia. No, Aaron. Or was it Ashley? Anna, maybe. Oh, no time for that. The group below began to stir. Help. Somebody, please. Asia cried out before the blonde boy placed his hand over her mouth, silencing her. Man, this bitch talks way too much. Haha. The man chuckled before licking his lips. I can't wait to shut her up with something else. Yeah, come on boss. I can't wait anymore, let's take her clothes off. The skinny man said in a rather dopey sounding voice. Asia teared up as the man grabbed hold of her robes. Ah, quit your crying girl. We just wanna have some fun with ya, that's all. Hee 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 hee. The round little man let out a shrill laugh as he closed in on poor Asia. What's taking so long, man? Get her damn clothes off. The leader seemed to be losing his patience as he yelled at the scrawny man. I got it, boss. The skinny guy began to reach under Asia's shirt but was suddenly stopped, his face frozen in a disgusting grin. His large sunglasses fell off his face revealing his 2 bulging eyes. The man's body went limp and with a loud thud he collapsed to the ground. The fat man looked over at his unconscious partner. Once he got the situation firmly figured out, he slowly turned his head behind. What the fuck? Oh, my bad. Issei said as he effortlessly tossed a stone in his hand, a confident grin plastered across his face. I kinda just wanted to get his attention, but I guess I threw that rock a bit too hard, huh? Issei. Asia calls out as the blonde thug lets go of her as he pulls a switchblade from his pocket and points the knife towards Issei. Oh shit, she remembers me. Now I feel like a real douche. Issei thought to himself as the blonde boy approached him. Who the fuck are you? The blonde man raised his head to intimidate Issei as he began his interrogation. Pay no mind to him. The fat thug said. Just some pretty boy who likes to play superhero. Rough him up real quick, we'll get back to business after this bitch runs off. Yes sir, boss. The blonde thug began to lumber closer to Issei as he readied his blade. Run away, well you still can. The blonde man was at least a foot taller than Issei and was sporting a slender yet muscular build. Issei simply scoffs at the man, infuriating him even further. That's it, asshole. Prepare to get cut. The man swung his blade down on Issei with beast-like force, but that wouldn't be enough. What? Issei caught the man's hand on his own, stopping his swing. Come on man. Issei said mockingly as he began to twist the man's arm. The blonde man began to cry out in pain as his arm was twisted into an unnatural position until he dropped his knife. Is that the best you've got? Issei smirked before firing a swift punch into his opponent's chest, knocking him into a nearby bush. Issei then turned his attention to the gang leader. Alright, now step away from the girl. Issei's voice shifted from cocky and playful to deadly serious. The fat man looked towards his 2 fallen comrades. The man slowly moves his hand into his jacket as if he was searching for something. I'm not scared of you asshole. A sinister grin formed on the fat man's face. "Eat lead, bitch." The gang leader whipped out a pistol and pointed it directly at Issei's head and pulled the trigger. Bang. The hammer of the pistol came down, shooting a lightning-fast bullet straight out the chamber. 9mm of steel came barreling directly for Issei. Smack. The speeding projectile struck Issei dead center in the middle of his temple, knocking his bed backwards. "Ha! Take that, you bastard." The rotund man nearly jumped with glee. Haha. Now, where were we, girlie? Issei. Asia called out, but not daring to move in such a danger situation as the gangster moved back in on the helpless girl. Oh, no. The gangster redirected him to Issei's still standing body. Issei's head moves back to its original position as a crunched-up bullet falls from the top of his forehead. "Unfortunately, that wasn't one of your options. Now I'm gonna have beat you up." "Well, what?" The gangster held his gun back up and fired 2 more shots. Bang. Bang. Each shot simply bounced off of Issei just like the last one as Issei slowly walked towards the fat gangster. "No. No. You're a monster." The man simply raised his gun back up and continued to fire. Bang 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 bang. Each shot was met with the same result, which was absolutely nothing. "No. No. Stay away. You're a monster. A fucking monster." Issei disappeared from the gangster's vision before reappearing directly in front of him. "Yep." The boy said quickly before firing a devastating punch into the man's face, shattering his sunglasses, revealing his tiny beady eyes and sending him flying backwards. "Whoa. What do you know, that was a great stress reliever," Issei said to himself as he began to stretch out his arm. He then quickly glanced back over at Asia, who was silently shaking in her own boots. "Oh crap, I almost forgot about the traumatized girl." Issei rushed over to the girl's side. "Don't worry, Alyssa, you're safe now," Issei said with a comforting smile that allowed the girl to stop shaking. "Thank you very much." Asia's voice was still trembling from the experience. "But my name is Asia." "Oh, that's right," Issei said in a calm, friendly tone. "Shit, I look like such a jerk right now. Asia, Argentina. How could I forget?" A sweet bead began to form on the young girl's face. "Anyway, we better get you out of here before those jerks come too." Issei grabbed the young blonde by the hand, causing her voice to light back up a bright red. "Come on, let's go." Issei smiled back with a goofy yet charming grin that warmed the young girl's heart. Why yeah, Asia's gaze was totally fixed on Issei as she slowly followed behind him. The two slowly began to flee the scene, but unknown to the two of them, the fat gangster began to stir. The disgusting man began to slowly lift his head to look at the two, and a face of pure rage formed on his face. He raised his gun back up and pointed it at the back of Asia's head, but his own lack of strength, the gun began to shake, but he pulled the trigger anyway. Bang. The noise caused Issei to turn around in utter horror. Time seemed to slow as Issei looked to see a small metal projectile ripping its way through the right side of Asia's abdomen, followed by gushing red blood. Time resumed its normal speed as Asia toppled to the ground. The shock of the bullet caused her eyes to slam shut. Issei knelt down to catch her and attempted to cover her wound with his hand, but blood continued to pour out. Asia. Issei's eyes were as wide as they could possibly be. The shock kept him from thinking straight. Ahihiahi. A shrill laugh escaped the fat man's mouth as he admired his own handiwork. Ha 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 ha. How's that, freak? Now the bitch is dead. The man regained his footing and looked down at the two as Issei held the motionless girl. Murderer. Issei said softly, causing the gang leader to raise an ear. What was that, freak? I couldn't hear you over the sound of your dead girlfriend. He. The man's laughter became uncomfortable as he mocked Issei's grief. You murderer. Issei put Asia down as he rose to face the foe. His eyes burning with an intense green glow. I'm gonna fucking break you. But the man's words fell short as a sharp, excruciating pain erupted in the middle of his stomach. The fat gangster looked down to see two ferocious green eyes as Issei plunged his fist deep in the man's stomach. Thick red blood poured from the man's mouth as his organs were ripped to shreds by Issei's fist. The fat man's body tumbled backward until finally coming to rest against a large tree, but the worst of it was yet to come. In a split second, Issei was back on top of the man, and with an ungodly amount of speed, his fist swiped across the pig-like man's face, instantly breaking his nose and spraying blood across the floor. Meanwhile, a few meters away, Asia's body began to stir. The blonde-haired girl was able to sit herself up. Luckily, the bullet wound was not initially fatal. Asia quickly raised her hands over her own stomach, and the twin rings that donned both of her hands began to shine a very calm green, quite the opposite of the vicious emerald glow erupting from Issei's eyes. The blood flow from Asia's wound had already stopped at this point. The small circular wound that was located a little over an inch above the girl's waist began to close. The sound of violent strikes caught Asia's attention, and when she looked over at the violent scene, she couldn't believe her eyes. 1, 2, 5, 15, 20 punches flew by in a matter of seconds as Issei violently pummeling the man. Each strike caused the tree behind him to shake, and with every blow more and more blood erupted from the man's face, coating Issei's hands. Each fist struck with the force of a hammer, causing massive damage, but just weak enough to keep the man alive, so that he could suffer more pain. At this point a crooked grin had formed across Issei's face, as his eyes were fully engulfed in the bright green glow. With all the strength the man could muster, he was able to open his eyes only to see the strike that would seal his fate. As he opened his eyes, the fat man was met with a shining blood-red gauntlet covered with golden spikes, and the beginning of a punch that had the capability to crush his skull in one strike. "No, please." The man begged as loud as his broken jaw would let him, but Issei would not be dissuaded by these pleas. Issei reeled back his fist for the final strike, but was stopped midway by a warm embrace behind him. "Issei-kun, please stop." Asia was trying her best to stop the punch as she attempted to use her own body weight to stop the blow. "Issei, you can't do this anymore and you'll kill him." Issei's malicious grin shifted to a face of confusion as Asia's voice rang through his ears. The boosted gear faded off of Issei's arm, as did the green glow emanating from his eyes. Issei dropped his fist as he looked over the gangster's bloodied and beaten body. "And my god," Issei looked down at his fist, which was thoroughly coated in blood. Issei was silenced as his cheeks were filled with vomit. Blarg. After Issei finished completely spilling his guts out, he looked back at the man. He attempted to blink the image out of his mind, to no avail. What did I do? I mean, how it was like I was dreaming. I didn't know what I was doing." Issei stumbled backwards away from the scene, before lightly bumping into Asia. "I didn't. Did I KKK?" Issei couldn't even finish his statement as Asia began to drag him away from the scene. "You'll live, but we need to get you away from here and clean you off." This time it was Asia dragging a distraught Issei, who couldn't take his eyes off of the disturbing scene. At Issei's house. Once Issei was able to walk on his own, he took Asia back to his house, and the two were greeted by Tiamat. "Issei, who is this?" Tiamat deadpanned. "This is Asia Argento, she's a friend of Raynare's, and she got into a little trouble, so I helped her out. We got a little messy though." Issei collapsed onto his couch as he finally gave into his emotional and physical exhaustion. "Yeah, I can see that. What happened?" Tiamat glared down at Issei, hoping to get him to squirm and answer her questions, but Issei was too tired to be intimidated. "I'm gonna take a shower, then cook us some dinner. I'll tell you after that." Issei got up and made his way to the stairs. "Oh, and see if you can clean Asia up and find her something to wear." 1 hour later. Issei, Tiamat and Asia were all sitting together on the couch, each with a bowl of ramen in their laps, as Issei told Tiamat of the events that occurred earlier in the day. "So basically I got really angry and blacked out. When I woke up I was covered in blood, and that guy was all beat up." Asia quickly slurped up a mouthful of ramen before adding on to the conversation. "It was super scary. I've never seen anyone so violent. He had these ferocious green eyes and this creepy sadistic grin the whole time." Asia immediately returned to her bowl of noodles. "Oh yeah, what's going on is really simple actually." Tiamat placed her bowl down and looked dead in the eyes. "Issei, dragons are creatures of powerful emotion. We can be undyingly loyal and passionate towards those we love and cherish. Unfortunately, when enraged we can be unbelievably violent and mercilessly ferocious. This is just the nature of dragons. As a dragon matures he develops more control over his emotions." Tiamat's explanation satisfied Issei, and he nodded. "Unfortunately. You're not a typical dragon." Tiamat closed in on Issei, to the point where they were mere inches from each other. "Issei, you became a dragon largely due to the power of the boosted gear. Drake's power. As such your aura is quite similar to that of the Welsh dragon of domination. To the point which one might consider you Drake's reincarnation." Issei's eyes widened as the revelation. No disrespect to Drake, but he was never the most emotionally stable dragon. In fact, of the two heavenly dragons, who were both willing to damn all life in existence for the sake of combat, Drake was always the more rash and unstable of the two. "Issei, you must be wary of your anger. If you let it overcome you and you lose control. There's no telling how grave the consequences might be." Issei sat quietly, letting the words sink into his psyche. Issei looked down at his left hand, a very stern expression locked on his face. The dragon of domination reincarnated. Issei sat motionless in a thinking position as he tried to comprehend what Tiamat had just told him. "So that outburst, when I didn't know what was going on. That was Drake." "Not necessarily," Tiamat said as she waved away the thought. "You just got a little angry, or scared, or confused, probably all three. Someone you knew had just been shot right in front of your eyes. That's a natural response, you just kind of had a freak out." "I freaked out?" Issei seemed confused by this revelation. A small relaxed smile forms across the boy's face as he sinks back into his seat. Yeah, that makes sense. What a relief. No kidding. Tiamat commented as she sipped a warm beverage from a mug. Her words caught the boy's attention. Had Drake's personality taken you over in a state of rage, then you'd have inherited his blinding fury. If that had happened, that man would have undoubtedly died, along with Asia. Issei looked over in horror at the young blonde girl who had fallen asleep on his couch. Not to mention any unfortunate souls that just so happened to get caught in your rampage. Well, how do I stop it? Issei slams his hands down into the table as he confronts Tiamat. Tiamat glanced over to make sure Asia was still sleeping. Issei returned to his seat as Tiamat began to speak. I don't know. I've never experienced anything like this before. The only thing I can tell is that to a dragon, your aura looks frighteningly similar to the Welsh dragon when he was alive, and that should concern you. But that Tiamat got up from her seat and made her way towards her room, leaving Issei to take in all the new information at once. Issei looked down at his two hands. Images flashed in his mind of the blood that had stained his palms, from the man he had beaten and bloodied. Issei grimaced at the violent memory, quickly shaking the thought from his head. Crap. Next morning. Asia yelled as she shot up from her slumber. Where am I? The blonde girl quickly looked back and forth across the room. She was sitting atop a bed decorated with white sheets and pillows, in a rather plain and barren room. She then looked down at herself. My clothes, she was wearing pink pajamas rather than her nun attire that she had arrived in. Asia slowly and cautiously made her way out of the bedroom and down the staircase at the end of the hallway. She carefully wandered around the house, not wanting to disturb anything, until she heard a noise. The sound of a small conversation led the young nun into the kitchen, where she found Tiamat sitting on the table as Issei prepared something in the kitchen. Issei, that smells incredible. Tiamat marveled as Issei skillfully tossed discs of eggs into the air before quickly catching them back into the skillet. Thanks, Tiamat, it's great how easy you are to please when it comes to food. Issei smirked, not taking his eyes off of his work. I decided I would go Western restaurant for our guests, so what do you want in your omelette? Issei then looked up directly at Asia. Well, speak of the devil. Asia quickly sniffed in the delicious scent of the eggs cooking in the pan, and immediately her expression lit up. Wow, that does smell incredible, Issei-kun. Asia made her way towards the counter as she inspected each of the ingredients Issei layers out to fill her omelette. She then picked out the ingredients she wanted and took her seat across from Tiamat. Seconds later, Issei lays his creation down on a plate in front of Asia, straight from his sizzling pan. Asia slowly scooped a bite of the egg dish into her fork and carefully placed the sizzling food into her mouth. Her eyes exploded with delight as the food slid down her tongue. This is incredible, as Asia marveled at her omelette. Issei and Tiamat fiercely devoured at least 4 times the food. The two dragons both sharpened their eyes, and their teeth seemed to shift into fangs as they shoveled food into the mouths. As the meal started to wrap, Asia finally seemed to realize something that had been bothering her. My clothes. Issei looked up from a cup of steaming beverage. Yeah, I put them in the washing machine. They should be done in a few minutes. Asia immediately covered her private parts after hearing Issei's comment. Calm down. Tiamat changed you. A red blush appeared on Issei's face as he addressed the misunderstanding. Yeah, don't worry. Tiamat gave a shifty-eyed comment. I didn't let the beast touch you. The female dragon returned to her mug. Hey. Issei stood up from his seat to emphasize his point. I'm no beast. Issei yelled, his mouth filled with dagger-like serrated fangs, and his eyes were sharpened with anger to the point where only his whites could be seen. Issei's contradicting appearance got a small grin out of Tiamat. Issei eventually calmed down and returned his attention to Asia anyway. How did you sleep in Asia? Tiamat usually sleeps there and she's not very picky. Was it comfortable enough for you? Oh yes, I slept heavenly. Asia said cheerfully. I was a little shocked waking up in an unfamiliar place, but it was very comfortable. I do have one question though. Asia turned to the blue-haired woman. So where did you sleep? Tiamat-sama. I hope I didn't rob you of a bed. Don't worry, little one. My sleeping condition was very satisfactory. Issei was kind enough to share his bed with me. Tiamat said with a grin, causing the young blonde girl to drop her jaw. That reminds me. Issei spoke up as he began to take the dirty dishes to the sink. What happened to Koka? I haven't seen her since yesterday morning. Oh yeah. Tiamat placed her finger on her lip as if she was just now remembering something important. She left yesterday, saying something about a mission from her boss. She said she'd be back as soon as she was done. Who's Koka? Asia said sheepishly. Damn cat. Issei slammed his fist down on the table, shocking the whole room. She went to meet up with the vanishing dragon without me. She didn't even tell me anything about her. Issei began to glow as he steamed over the news. Who's the vanishing dragon? Asia said sheepishly. Don't worry, Issei. You'll meet Albion eventually, it is your destiny after all. Tiamat seemed rather annoyed at this. As she looked on at her pupil, all she could see was a menacing red dragon with a fiery aura surrounding him. The Dragon King quickly shook this out of her head. "Anyway, you'd better get going or you'll be late for school. I'll make sure Asia gets hope alright. Remember, we have training this afternoon, be ready." Issei looked down at his wristwatch, causing his eyes to burst with shock. "Crap, you're right. Alright, I'm out, see you around, Asia." "Bye, Issei-kun," Asia said softly as Issei ran past her and out the door. Her stare lingered on the door Issei had just left from. "Alright, Asia." Tiamat stood up as a bright blue light surrounded her. When it faded, Tiamat was no longer in her pajamas, but rather her sparkling scale-like dress. "Get dressed and let's get going." In the Kuoh warehouse district, Tiamat and Asia walked closely side by side through a rather sketchy part of town. The Dragon King quickly surveyed the scene and a confused expression before turning to Asia. "Are you sure we're in the right place?" "Yes," Asia replied with a very serious tone. She didn't look worried about the rough and unclean location, but her voice did have a hint of fear in it. "Oh, I always thought a nun would live in a church," Tiamat joked slightly. "Issei-kun kinda burned it down," Asia said with a small grin. The two continued their work until they stopped in front of an old rundown warehouse. This is when Asia slightly grimaced as she looked up at the building. Out of nowhere, a man swooped down from the sky on two black wings. He was wearing a large trench coat and a fedora that shielded most of his face from sight. "I'll take her from here. You can leave," the man grumbled, not knowing who he was really speaking to. Tiamat stepped forward as if to confront the man, but was stopped. "It's okay, Tiamat-sama. I'll go with him." Asia stepped forward and joined the man. "Thank you very much for your kindness." The girl bowed to the dragon. The man quickly snatched the girl up and jetted off into the sky. Tiamat stood still for a moment, her gaze fixated on the ominous building. Her eyes sharpened before she turned away and left the scene. Later at the Orc, Issei let out a vicious battle cry as he rocketed forward at Tiamat, who was now wearing a tracksuit for training. Issei was fully equipped with his balance breaker and a fist cocked back and readied. Issei fired the first forward at the girl, kicking up a huge dust storm. The dust settled revealed Issei was utterly stopped by a long deep blue staff that was topped with a bluish-green gem. Tiamat quickly twirled her staff, knocking away Issei's hand and leaving him open for a quick jab from the back end of the staff directly to his stomach. "Oof." Issei stumbled backwards as he tried to regain his breath. "Sloppy," Tiamat commented before switching to the offensive. The blue-haired woman jumped into the sky and held her staff upwards before bringing it down with devastating force. Issei quickly spread his crimson wings, and with a powerful flap, Issei kicked up a whirlwind that knocked the Tiamat's light body out of the sky. Tiamat caught herself in a three-point stance as she fell. She then hurtled herself forward at an increased rate of speed. Issei had no time to dodge as Tiamat delivered a powerful swing of her staff into Issei's left side, sending him flying to the right. Issei caught himself in midair and quickly flew upwards. Issei brought his hands together as he charged an energy ball between them until it was about double the size of a basketball. "Take this." Issei threw his hands forward and the energy ball turned into a powerful energy array aimed directly at Tiamat. The blast hit dead on, causing a large explosion. The smoke quickly cleared, revealing a relatively unscathed Tiamat who was holding up a shining blue shield-like magic circle. "That's not it, right?" Issei growled in frustration. "Not by a mile." Issei blasted forward surrounded by a fierce red aura. Appeared seemingly from nowhere above Tiamat and performed a beautiful drop kick that Tiamat had to use both arms to block, resulting in a clash of draconic auras that caused a large explosion. Meanwhile, on the sidelines, Riaz, Akeno, and Kiba all watched the fierce display. "Incredible," Kiba marveled. "Those two are incredible." "Yeah," Riaz said with a rather sour face. "I can't decide what's more incredible. The amount of damage they can do while training, or how much it's going to repair that training field." "Oh come now, Riaz. If it really bothered you that much, then why did you agree to let Issei-kun use it as he wishes?" Akeno said with a bright smile. Riaz was caught off guard by the question, and her face lit up a bright red. Ahem. Riaz collected herself and turned to her queen, still red in the face. Well, if Issei sees us in a more favorable light, he may be more willing to join the peerage." Akeno rolled her eyes before returning her focus to the fight. As the smoke from the explosion began to fade, Issei did a backflip to create some distance between him and his opponent. When he landed, he immediately took a stance where his legs were spread out and his knees were bent. As Issei screamed, his aura began to flare. Boost. 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 Drake's voice rang out as the green gems that covered Issei's armor began to glow a bright green. With each boost, Issei aura grew in power and the ground beneath him began to splinter and crack. After Issei had boosted enough, his aura faded and everything seemed to calm and grow quiet until Issei rose back to an upright position and let out another scream. And with that, the huge fiery red aura returned, kicking dust and rocks as it flared upwards. Issei blasted forward, still clocked in an intense aura as he once again closed in on Tiamat. Issei launched a lightning-quick fist towards Tiamat's face, which was once again blocked by the blue staff. Rough. Issei began to violently thrust his fists forward at a violent speed, to the point where Issei's arms appeared to be not much more than scarlet blurs. The Tiamat began to twirl her staff like a propeller, blocking each of Issei's strikes. The clash of striking and blocking went on for several seconds, neither combatant losing a single inch. Issei decided it was time to break the stalemate. The boy began to charge a red energy blast in his left arm, immediately getting Tiamat's attention. Tiamat shifted her staff to a point where it was blocking Issei's left hand, so he could not aim the blast at her. While she was focused on this, Issei swung his powerful tail from his right side, striking the woman in a wide open part of her body and knocking her away. Issei didn't waste a second, as Tiamat was flying backwards. Issei let the energy ball that was charging in his left hand fly. The small ball of energy made direct contact with its target, resulting in an explosion of kinetic energy. Issei wasn't going to relent yet as he rocketed after his opponent. Tiamat finally finished tumbling when she realized Issei was hurtling towards her. In an expert display of skill, Tiamat quickly ducked underneath Issei's lung at the last second. And during the split period of time where Issei was directly above the Dragon King. A small blue spark appeared at the back of Tiamat's throat, then suddenly a massive amount of blue energy exploded from the dragon's mouth, enough so that Issei was completely consumed by the blast. When Issei came down, smoke was emanating from his body and he was slow to recover. Tiamat used this time to deliver another devastating attack. The blue-haired woman lifted her hand into the air and a small magic circle appeared above her fingertips. An identical circle formed underneath Issei as Tiamat finished the spell. Draco Tenitra. Tiamat's voice rang with power as a gigantic pillar of blue lightning came crashing down on the boy. Tiamat approached her student, who was hunched over still reeling from the attack. Disappointment filled her face. Pathetic, no focus at all. You launched forward at me and left yourself completely exposed. Strength is useless if you can't keep your head in a fight. I am focused. Issei launched himself up and prepared another punch and fired it forward at Tiamat in close quarters. Tiamat stopped the attack by simply grabbing Issei by the arm and violently flinging him into the ground. No, you're not. Tiamat said with a certain authority that forced Issei to listen to her lecture. Your mind has been scattered and unfocused since your little breakup. From an emotional sense, I suppose I understand why, but if you wish to be a real fighter, then you need to get over yourself and move forward. Your lack of control over your own emotions is a human trait. It makes you weak. What the hell do you know about being human? Issei said, his voice sharp with anger. You don't know anything. Issei rose to his feet as a violent crackling red aura exploded from his. Issei screamed as his frustration and rage began to boil over. His emerald green eyes flashed a bright red before the crimson color solidified and took over his eyes. Tiamat was overtaken by shock as she felt the massive increase in power emanating from Issei. She quickly jumps backwards to separate herself from Issei, to no avail. Issei hurtles himself straight towards Tiamat at an exceptional speed. Tiamat quickly crosses her arms in an X shape to block the attack, but when Issei was mere inches from delivering his punch, he vanished in midair. Time seemed to slow as Tiamat turned to her left to find a gigantic scarlet fist hurtling directly for her face. The incredible blow makes contact with Tiamat's left cheek. So much force was packed into the punch that the earth beneath the two shattered and Tiamat flew forward due to the power of the blow. She tumbled onto the ground and skipped twice across the floor like a stone on water. After delivering the vicious strike, the red glow faded from Issei's eyes, and the green gems that covered Issei's body lost their emerald glow and faded into a dark green as his power began to fade. Issei lowers himself to the ground and quickly scans his body. What was that? Issei looks over his armored body, hoping to find out what caused the spike in power. Unknown to him, an angry and upset Tiamat was just now regaining her footing. Tiamat growled, upset with the punch. She pointed her staff in Issei's direction, and a large magic circle appeared underneath the boy who was still preoccupied by his own self-study. The large blue circle began to glow more intensely, until the large blue explosion consumed Issei. Seconds later in the orc. Ow. Issei winced as Riaz wrapped his shoulder in bandages while he sat shirtless on the couch. Oh, quit being a baby. Tiamat mocked, trying to hide the fact that she actually felt bad about hurting the boy. Don't lecture me. This is your fault. Issei pointed a finger of accusation at the Dragon King. Nah. You punched me. Tiamat fired back at Issei. Oh come on, this isn't a martial arts competition. Her punches are perfectly allowed. Issei said in his own defense. HMPH. Then blowing up the floor as allowed to. Tiamat turned away from the boy almost as if she was pouting. Both of you stop fighting. Riaz spoke up, cutting the roll of tape off of the part that was wrapped around Issei's torso. You're both like children. Riaz took a seat on the couch next to Issei. I'm thirsty. Can we get some refreshments please? Riaz called out. Yes ma'am. A familiar voice called out from the other side of the room, sending chills down Issei's spine. Issei stood up and looked over in the direction of the voice to find Raynare dressed in a maid's outfit and pushing a tea cart. Raynare. Issei couldn't believe his eyes as he looked on at his ex-flame. The fallen angel pulled her cart around to the table before making eye contact with Issei. Hi Issei-kun. She said with a small smile. Issei locked eyes with her and he blinked quickly, but she was still there. He had no words, he didn't know what to do. If he should be happy or angry or what. Issei just stood still in a state of disbelief. Tiamat looked back and forth at the two of them. Oh geez. Well I'm probably gonna head home, I've had enough drama for the day. See you later. With that Tiamat exited the building, leaving just Riaz, Raynare, and Issei. Issei remained silent as he stared at the girl until it became uncomfortable. What are you doing here? Issei finally found the words. I live here. Raynare answered by taking a seat across from Issei to continue the conversation. That hotel money didn't last long. Raynare said almost jokingly. And we're gonna talk about that hotel thing later. Riaz said with a glare. But I mean why here? Issei said still very confused. It's the only place left that I could go. Raynare looked off into the distance, no longer making eye contact with Issei. Everywhere I go I seem to mess something up, so this is my last shot. Sadness could be heard from her voice. Riaz took me in and said I could stay here at the clubhouse. All I had to do was work as a maid. Issei turned to Riaz. You mean like a slave? A mixture of anger and concern filled his voice. No. She makes 50,000 yen a week and gets weekends off. Riaz explained. Yeah, it's a pretty good gig. Raynare got up from her seat and prepared to take the tea cart back to the kitchen. I have to sweep the kitchen, so I'll see you in a bit. Issei was left still in a state of shock as Raynare disappeared from the room. Riaz was the next to stand up, but she decided to take Issei with her. Grabbing the stunned boy by the wrist and lifting him to his feet. You, my friend, need a shower. The red shot him a bright smile, taking him out of his funk momentarily. Right this way sir. Later in the shower. Warm water cascaded down Issei's well-toned back as he tried to wrap his head around this new info. Okay, so she's doing good. That's good right? Issei said to himself as water flowed past him through his hair. God damn it. I'm so confused. I have no idea how I'm supposed to feel. I suppose that's a normal response after seeing your ex again. A familiar voice came from directly behind Issei, then two soft sensations pressed against his back. Issei jumped, then immediately turned around and was met with two big ruby eyes staring back at him. Akeno-san. Hi there, Issei-kun. Akeno stepped forward, pressing her large chest against Issei's. I heard you were taking a shower and decided to join you, and hearing you squeal like that was just priceless. Jay, join me. Why? Issei tried to step backwards away from the dark-haired girl, but Akeno wouldn't allow Issei any space. Technically Riaz told me that I was to try to seduce every chance I could get. Akeno smirked. Seduce, that means your Issei looked down at Akeno's bountiful chest, causing the dark-haired girl to smirk. Sorry, Issei-kun. Akeno stepped backwards, revealing a tiny swimsuit covering all the important places. You're the only one who's right now. The dark-haired devil took a quick glance down to which Issei quickly covered up. Hey, you really are super cute, Issei-kun. Akeno made her way back up to Issei and slowly moved his arms away and began to press her soft body against Issei's as she looked up into Issei's eyes. You know what Issei-kun is? Even if Riaz didn't ask me to seduce you, I don't know if I'd be able to hold myself back. Akeno seductively whispered in the boy's ear. Why would that be? Issei's face was a furious red. Well. Akeno wrapped her arms around Issei's neck. Well, you're such a cute, charming, kind, and strong young man. Not to mention that which kinda makes you a celebrity. The only question is why a guy like you would settle for a disgusting fallen angel. It's beyond me. Issei's blush faded at this comment and a small smirk formed across his face. Hehe, Issei chuckled lightly, causing Akeno to back away. What's so funny? Akeno looked rather confused as Issei's chuckling died down. Nothing, it's just Raynare asked me something just like before we started dating and it just kinda reminded me of that. Issei scratched his chin as he reminisced about the past. So I guess I kinda have an answer already. I understand that fallen angels aren't looked at very highly in the supernatural world, and yeah, she did try to kill me, but when it came to Raynare it never mattered that she was a fallen angel. She was some who made me smile, and some I trusted, and nothing else really mattered to me. Then we broke up and it kinda wrecked me. So you're saying it doesn't matter to you what she is or where she came from? Akeno stared directly into the boy's emerald eyes. It doesn't matter what she is, all that matters is who she is. Issei finished for her with a calm smile that utterly captivated the girl. A bright red blush formed on the devil's face. I gotta go. Akeno quickly retreated from the shower, closing the curtains behind her, leaving Issei in a confused state for a few moments before her head popped back through the curtains. One more thing. If I were you, I would clear the air between you and Raynare. Maybe if you two can become friends, then both of you can move on from this. Think about it. But that Akeno had left for good and Issei was left to soak in the shower and think about her words. Suddenly Issei's expression lit up. I just realized something. Throughout that whole emotional exchange, Issei's face burned a bright red before shaking the thought from his head. But Akeno is right. The right thing to do is to get some closure with Raynare. Issei lifted his fist into the air and thought about what Tiamat had told him. If I wish to be a real fighter, I must put aside my emotions. Easier said than done. Thanks for watching this video. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe and comment down below and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow the JCT1345 for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.